The room was still, too still for a wedding night. Outside, the music had faded into distant laughter, and the last of the guests were leaving beneath. Strings of golden lights that flickered like tired stars. Inside the bridal suite, the air felt heavy, thick with silence and unshed tears. She sat at the edge of the wedding bed, the white sheets untouched, her veil still pinned into her hair as though she hadn't decided whether she was truly staying. Her shoulders trembled, her fingers were clenched tightly in her lap, and her shoes, those once beautiful satin heels, were dusty from the road she almost ran down. Her name was Ilara, and only 3 hours earlier she had walked down the aisle with the kind of smile that convinces everyone. The kind of smile brides practice in mirrors, the kind that hides storms. But love does not grow in practiced smiles. Love grows in the quiet moments. And tonight, in the silence of the bridal room, all she could hear were the echoes of her own doubt. She had tried to leave. Just before the ceremony, when the orchestra swelled and the doors were about to open, she slipped out the back entrance of the church. No one saw her at first. She lifted her dress, ran down the gravel path, and didn't stop until her satin shoes were no longer white. Dust clung to them like truth. Because she wasn't afraid of marriage. She was afraid of being unseen. Afraid that the man she was about to marry loved the idea of her more than the reality. Afraid that she would become another silent wife in a quiet house, shrinking piece by piece until even her reflection forgot her name. She stood by the road for nearly 5 minutes. 5 minutes that felt like a lifetime. And then she heard footsteps, not hurried, not angry, not demanding, just steady. When she turned around, it wasn't a groomsman. It wasn't her father. It was him, Adrian, still in his wedding suit. No jacket, no tie. Just a man walking toward the woman he loved as though nothing in the world needed to be forced. He didn't ask, "What are you doing?" He didn't say, "You're embarrassing me." He didn't mention the guests. Instead, he stopped a few feet away and looked down at her shoes. And then he said softly, "You shouldn't walk alone on sharp gravel in shoes that thin." That was all. Not accusation, not pressure, just concern. And that was when she started crying. Not the soft tears she had rehearsed for sentimental moments. Not the elegant tears brides dab away for photographs. Real tears. The kind that break something open. He stepped closer, not to pull her back, not to command her, but to stand beside her. And after a moment of silence that felt sacred rather than awkward, he asked, "Do you want to leave?" No one had ever asked her that before. Not in past relationships, not in childhood decisions, not in family expectations. Do you want to leave? And in that question was freedom. That's when she realized something that would change everything. Love does not trap. Love gives choice. She shook her head slowly. "I don't want to leave," she whispered. "I just don't want to disappear." He didn't interrupt, didn't defend himself, didn't argue. He listened. And if you've ever felt unheard, you know how powerful that is. If this moment is touching something in you, if you believe love should feel like safety instead of pressure, make sure you're part of this community. Subscribe and stay with us. Because stories like this remind us what real love looks like. Adrian knelt down, right there on the gravel road, and he reached for her feet. Not dramatically, not for show, but gently. He untied her dusty shoes. She looked down at him in confusion. He brushed the gravel off the satin with his hand, as if dust were nothing more than temporary evidence of fear. Then he removed the shoes completely and held them in his hands. "You don't have to walk back in those," he said. He took off his own shoes next and stood barefoot beside her. "If we walk back," he added, "we walk back equal. No audience, no applause. Just two barefoot people on a dusty road." She laughed through her tears. And that laugh was the truest sound of the entire day. They walked back slowly, hand in hand, not because they had to, but because they chose to. And now, hours later, she sat on the wedding bed replaying that moment. But doubt doesn't vanish in a single act of kindness. It lingers, it whispers. It asks, what if that was just one moment? That's why she cried. Not because she didn't love him, but because she needed to know that the man who knelt on gravel would still kneel in ordinary days. The door creaked open softly. She didn't look up. She knew who it was. He didn't speak right away. He walked across the room and stopped in front of her. And then he knelt again, this time on polished wood instead of gravel. He reached for her dusty shoes, still on her feet, still tied, still carrying the memory of almost leaving. And without a word, he began to untie them. There are moments in life when power is proven not by standing tall but by kneeling low. Adrian understood something most men are never taught. Love is not about control. It is about care. As he untied the laces slowly, carefully, he wasn't just removing shoes. He was removing fear. Elara watched him through blurred vision. The room was lit only by a single lamp near the window, casting warm shadows along the walls. The celebration outside was over. The performance was done. There were no guests left to impress, just truth. "Why?" she whispered. He paused, hands resting lightly against her ankle. "Because you looked like you carried the whole day alone," he said quietly. "And I never want you to carry anything alone again." Her breath caught. He continued, not looking up, focusing on the small task like it was sacred. "I saw the way your smile trembled before the ceremony. I saw your hands shake when you held your bouquet. I saw you trying to be strong." He slipped one shoe off gently. "And I realized something." He looked up at her then. "I don't need you to be strong for me." The second shoe fell to the floor. Silence filled the room, but this silence felt different. It wasn't heavy. It was healing. He reached for her feet again, not possessively, not urgently, but carefully, brushing the remaining dust from her skin. "You don't disappear in this marriage," he said. "You expand." And for the first time that day, she believed him. Because love isn't proven in grand speeches. It's proven in small gestures. In kneeling when you could stand. In listening when you could argue. In choosing softness when pride would be easier. She slid off the bed and knelt in front of him too, equal, face to face. "No one has ever chosen me like that," she said. He smiled gently. "Then let me be the first." They didn't rush the night. They didn't chase perfection. They sat on the floor, backs against the bed, talking for hours, not about wedding plans, not about expectations, but about fears, childhood fears, failure fears, the fear of not being enough. And with every confession, the room felt lighter. Marriage didn't begin when she walked down the aisle. It began when he knelt. And here's something powerful for everyone listening. Real love does not humiliate. It does not rush. It does not silence your doubts. It meets them. If you believe in love that listens, if you believe in partnership instead of power, subscribe to this channel and join us. Because stories like this are reminders that healthy love still exists, and it's worth waiting for. Later that night, long after the tears had dried, Elara picked up her dusty shoes from the floor. She didn't throw them away. She placed them in a box, because they were proof that she almost ran, proof that she was given the choice, proof that she chose to stay, not out of pressure but out of peace. Years later, when people would ask her what made their marriage strong, she wouldn't talk about the wedding dress. She wouldn't talk about the venue. She would say this: "He kneeled when I needed reassurance, and he never stopped kneeling in the moments that mattered." And sometimes strength looks like standing at the altar, but sometimes it looks like untying dusty shoes.